All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you guys something that I think is really important, especially if you're looking to publish fiction or nonfiction. And I'm kind of qualified to do this, not kind of, but extremely qualified, because I've sold tons and tons and tons of digital content and just helped a lot of people do so as well. So we're going to talk about secrets to publishing a successful fiction or nonfiction book series. Now, this works for all types of books: fiction, nonfiction, audiobooks, Kindle books, physical paperbacks, hardcover books, even like Kindle Vella for those of you that are publishing stories on Vella. I think the biggest mistake that many authors and writers make will become a lot clearer as I show you why series publishing is the way to go and why it works for just so many different genres. As you just saw, we had Diary of a Wimpy Kid up here. I've got Bradley Sugar's Instant series, right, which is in that nonfiction realm. We've got Tom Clancy, where he's published multiple fiction books. We've got, the Jack Canfield, right? Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So this can be done regardless of the genre and the format. And it doesn't matter what it is that you're looking to publish, all right? So we've got some Kindle Vella stories here as well. All right, so we've got some audiobooks here. So let's jump into it, all right? So before we get started, if you are someone that is a digital publisher, whether you create courses, Kindle books, audiobooks, paperback books, hardcovers, we've got a community of individuals just like you, and it is growing. It's huge. You can join right now for free before we start charging. Typically, when we create our communities, there is a charge that's attached to it. But for now, you can go and you can join for free by visiting publishlikeapro.com, right? If you know anyone who wants to join that community, please send them over. And at the end of this, I'm going to actually give you a couple of different bonuses. These are things that have helped me out a lot. My Series to Success framework. This is a framework that will be your secret weapon when it comes to building out a sturdy series. So it's packed with ready-to-use templates. It takes the guesswork out of structuring your series, whether you're crafting plot arcs for fiction or organizing topics for nonfiction. It's your all-in-one guide to creating like characters and building these themes and making your series flow effortlessly. So this is something that you will not be able to get anywhere else except for here. Once you get your hands on it, you will not want to build out a series or even a one-off book without it. All right. And at the end, I'm going to give you a link that you can actually use to go in and grab that, as well as what I like to call my bestseller series launchpad. So this works again with both fiction and nonfiction. This thing is the ultimate tool for both fiction and nonfiction authors who want to go in and crush their niche, right? Regardless of what the genre is. It's packed with step-by-step strategies that successful authors use to promote their first book. And as you know, with a lot of successful series, one of the things that they have in their favor is they keep that momentum going for every release, from book to book to book. So this isn't just some generic list that you can kind of go in and Google. Again, this is exclusive. And the only way that you're getting this is by sticking around until the end of this training, right? And I'll give you that link. So this is kind of like the checklist that should come with a warning. So once you've got it, you'll never look at book marketing the same way again. So if you're serious about turning your series into a success, this is the roadmap you need. Stay until the end of a workshop to claim yours. Now, I want you to think about this. Just over 25 years ago, Amazon open to the public. And this was back in July 1995. I can't even remember how old I was at this point. I know I was in my 20s because my first daughter was born in 1998. So I had to be about 24 here, right? And in 1998, the year that my oldest daughter was born, Amazon created something called Advantage, and Amazon Advantage was a physical program, and I think it's still around to this day, that allows media content creators to sell their physical products, and like at that time, books, directly to Amazon. And the way it worked was like I would actually go in, and I was part of this Amazon Advantage program, not part of it anymore, but I would ship physical books out to Amazon. I would take these boatloads and boxes of books that I had self-published to the post office and sometimes to UPS and just ship them out. And he would look at me crazy because they're like, what's this kid doing with all of these books? Remember, I'm in my 20s at that time, right? So Amazon would buy my physical books directly from me and then sell them on its platform. right? Amazon handled like everything, which was really cool about it. They handled all of the sales, they handled all of the customer service, they handled all of the shipping, the returns, and the refunds. All I had to do was ship them my books. Well, obviously get them self-published, ship them my books, and then they would send me royalties, and they would send me commissions, because it was more like a commission type of a thing, right? And I'm like excited about this. I'm doing really well with this thing. And I wanted to take it to the next level and do even better. So I started studying stuff like direct response marketing and just copywriting. And I started studying these greats like Gary Halbert and Jay Abraham and Robert Cialdini, the author of Influence and the Power of Persuasion, and Dan Kennedy and Joe Sugarman and, Claude Hopkins and Gary Benzavinga and all of these amazing direct response copywriters, marketers, and people that talked about influence way before being an influencer was a thing, right? And as a result, I saw my physical book sales really take off. Like they really started to do really, 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 really well, right? And if you're wondering, like, Ty, what is direct response marketing? Well, the definition of direct response marketing is a marketing strategy that encourages consumers, so like readers and buyers, to take a specific action immediately, right? So not to just sit there and play around with it, but to immediately take an action. And that action could be to sign up for your newsletter. It could be to go in and buy your product. It could be to buy the next product, right? So the number one goal of direct response marketing is to drive quick results, whether it's sales or just an action in general, all right? And typically it's sales, right? So direct response marketing is pretty much a way of advertising where you ask people to take action right away. And unlike regular advertising that just tells people about a product like branding or builds brand awareness over time, direct response marketing encourages immediate action, right? So this means like when you want the person that's saying your message to do something immediately, you're going to use direct response marketing. It is super powerful, and this is why I was able to sell so many books on Amazon Advantage. So things like buying your book or signing up for your email list or downloading a free chapter of your book or joining like your virtual book event. And I'm actually surprised that more writers, since it would be very natural for writers and creators and just creative individuals in general to pick up on direct response, I'm surprised that more people don't use it. I think it's just because they're not really familiar with it, all right? So it's important for authors because both fiction and nonfiction authors, direct response marketing can be this tool that really helps you, right? To reach more readers quickly, to sell more books as it's done for me over and over and over and over again. It continues to do. To build a loyal fan base, right? To engage with your audience directly. There's a lot that you can do with this stuff. Especially as a writer, right? So by encouraging immediate action, you don't have to wait and hope that people will remember your book later. Instead, with direct response marketing, all right, you're guiding them to take the next step like right away, right? So here's how you can use direct response marketing with your books. So you can go in and craft headlines that grab attention, that highlight the main benefit of your book, right? I'll give you some examples of this. You can use power words that evoke curiosity. That always works really well. Emotion, urgency. You just want to make sure that you're truthful. You want to make sure that you're not, putting anything misleading out there. So here's an example of fiction, right? So fiction, you can use direct response marketing in your headline or in your copy by simply saying something like, will love be their salvation or their doom? Find out in XYZ, or the name of your book, right? Click here to get your copy. So let's say this is a Facebook ad, or this is something that's in your email as you're sending email out to your readers, right? It's invoking this curiosity, right? There's a sense of urgency. There's a little bit of emotion in it as well. It has a little bit of all. Will love be their salvation or their doom, right? Now, someone that has started to read your book or part of your books, they're curious, right? Especially if they're invested. But if someone who has not started, they're curious as well. And this is what takes them down that slippery slope and gets them to, as it says here, click here to get their copy, right? And there's a lot that you can do with that. So that could be a free copy. It could be a paid copy. It could be you're sending them over to Amazon to buy your physical, your Kindle, your audiobook, whatever it might be. Now, for nonfiction, here's how you can use it as well. So in nonfiction, here's an example. Unlock the secrets to, and then that desired outcome, right? Unlock the secrets to becoming a better husband with the ultimate husband's guide to long-lasting love and relation or love and marriage, right? Click here to get your copy. So hopefully you guys see how this works. When you start using direct response marketing, it's more direct and you're helping the reader versus just giving them a bland action, right? So there's a CTA, it's a call to action, CTA. The call to action here is click here to get your copy. CTA here is click here to get your copy. All right. So what I've done is over the years, I've studied direct response marketing and I put it in everything. And you'll even see it like in this presentation if you pay attention, right? At the very beginning, I've got some direct response marketing methods employed here. And then at the end, but what happens is I started to really, because I saw where just having certain elements would increase my book sales, I started to get really passionate about studying direct response. And I would take these notes, and I've got this entire file of direct response things that work extremely well for me, and I've compiled it into this entire book, and I want to give you guys a copy of this thing as well. So when you stay until the end, I'm also going to show you how you can get a free copy when you join me on my book series Secrets 5-Day Challenge. All right, so you'll get a copy of that book as well, which I think is going to be very helpful for you because it's helped me out big time. All right, so give me a yes in the comments or in the chat box if you want to get a copy of this thing. Give me a yes, 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 yes. All right, very cool. So this is filled with nearly 100 pages of my best direct response marketing strategies for fiction and nonfiction authors. So you'll find things like how to tap into the power of social media to effortlessly engage readers and turn casual fans into supercharged promoters who help to sell your books for you. You'll find things like how to transform your email list into a gold mine, generating consistent sales and keeping readers excited, all right, with every email that you send. So there's a lot that goes into this, all right? So give me a yes in that comments box or that chat box if you want to get that. Now, let's get back on track really quickly. So in 1998, right, so I went from telling you that 1995 was when Amazon got started. 1998 is when I got started for Amazon Advantage, where they would go and they would buy my physical books directly from me, then sell them on its platform, right? And then in 2007, because, look, Amazon launched KDP in 2007, and it seems like a long time ago now, right? But because I was doing so well with this, I got invited to be one of the first to get started with selling on Amazon's Kindle Direct publishing platform because I was doing so well with Amazon Advantage, right? And selling so many physical books. So Amazon says, look, we've got this new platform that we're launching. It's called Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing Platform, KDP for short. It's where instead of physical books being sold, digital books, the consumer can come in and they can have this Kindle reader and they can read a digital version of their book. That was honestly, I was very, 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 very skeptical. I didn't think anyone would want to go in and read a digital book. I mean, think about this. We like to go in and mark up our books and dog ear them and make notes. And so I'm thinking like, this is not going to really work out well. I was wrong. I loaded some of the manuscripts that I had from my physical books on KDP, and they did extremely well. They actually did better than what my physical books that I was selling on Amazon Advantage did. Extremely, extremely well. Right, so I'm rolling in the dough. I'm happy. I'm having a ball at this time. I go all in. I start publishing more and more books. I'm publishing fiction, nonfiction, including books on dating, stuff like romance, wedding planning, romance, mystery, Japanese tomato garden, sci-fi, homeschooling, you name it. If there was a audience out there, I'm publishing it, right? I had a system in place, and I'm publishing. These are all one-off books, right? So I'm not at the series point. All one-off books. As many, put a 1 in the comments or a chat. Just put 1 off if you publish one-off books, or put series if you publish series books. I'm just curious, right? Now, I turned into an addict. My books are selling so well, I just really got addicted. And what I mean addicted in a good way. Look, get your mind out of a gutter, guys. Right? My addiction was seeing my sales come in, it was just like really something that I just love going in. So much so that I would get up in the middle of the night. My wife thought I was going to the bathroom, but I would get up in the middle of the night, sneak down to my computer downstairs on the first floor, log into my KDP account to check my sales, because I just couldn't believe that sales, like as I'm sleeping, sales would come in overnight, right? I would get people who would buy from just other countries or just different time zones or night owls or whatever it might be. And you guys, if you've published on, Amazon or any of your other platforms, and if you've had success with your sales, you've probably seen this, right? So this is not something new. But for me, at that time, with Kindle Direct Publishing being new, it was just like, what is this? Like, this is crazy, right? So I'm doing this on a regular basis. And I think my wife finally caught me. She thought I was nuts, right? So life was good. I'm doing, like, we're rocking and rolling. I'm saving, I'm investing, right? I'm getting out of debt. I'm using my royalties to, donate to our church and give to charities. We're eating better. We're eating on the right-hand side of a menu, no longer the left-hand side. I'm taking vacations, right? We're just doing all types of things. We actually built out our first new home, right? Our first new home from the ground up, built that thing out, right? And then, you'd never guess, it all just went flat. Like, it just went flat, right? Like, my sales didn't totally stop, but they just dropped. And I'm just like devastated to the point where I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I'm just totally down. Have you ever had something that works so well and you're excited about it, and just as you're getting it rocking and rolling, right? I had this thing rocking and rolling, and something happens and it's like flatline. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I need to just publish more books. So I started to publish even more books, right? I'm thinking I need new readers. So now I'm publishing other books. Some I'm writing myself. Some I'm hiring ghostwriters to write for me. Nothing's working. I started thinking maybe it's my titles, right? So I started testing my titles. I started testing my covers. That's not working. Then I started lowering my prices. That's not working. And by the way, that's one of the worst mistakes that you can make when sales are not there, to have a race to the bottom with your competition by lowering your prices. Then I start thinking, well, maybe it's the quality of my book. So I start spending even more time writing and spending more money on even higher quality ghostwriters and putting my time into writing my content as well. And that's not working, right? And then I'm thinking, well, maybe I just lost my creativity. Have you ever felt that way? Let me know. Put it in a chat box or the comments box. Give me a yes if you've ever felt like, man, maybe I'm in a slump right now. Maybe I've just lost my mojo. Maybe I'm not coming up with, I'm thinking everything's wrong. I'm thinking, look, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And it's a very weird thing because I couldn't figure it out. And then I saw this quote by Maya Angelou, and she says, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And I didn't understand that at the time, but a few months later, it kind of made sense, right? It says you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And at this time, I'm starting to wonder, as I said, am I losing my creativity, right? Am I in this slump? And I just dropped everything. Sometimes we can be so attached to things that we have a hard time figuring things out. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to disattach myself from it. The late Wayne Dyer used to say, be open to everything and attached to nothing. And I started to practice that detachment, right? And my mom, she's no longer here on the earth, but she was my best friend, and we would just do some really cool things. We would go in and we would, go to tag sales together and rummage sales together, if you guys know what those are. And we would just do some really cool things. And I remember being a kid in my teens, and one day we're driving. Me and my mom were on a ride together. I don't even know where we were going, but she says, remember those thumbnails you used to collect as a teenager, right? And I was probably like 13 or 14 years old, and I used to collect these Danbury mint thumbnails, right? I forget exactly what age I was, but I just remember I was in my teens, and I used to collect these weird thumbnails from Danbury Mint. Does anyone remember Danbury Mint? Put Danbury Mint in the chat box if you remember Danbury Mint, right? I think, and Danbury Mint, actually, we're from Connecticut, so Danbury, Connecticut, but Danbury Mint wasn't in Danbury, Connecticut. It was actually in Norwalk, Connecticut. And my mom brought these things up. She's like, remember these thumbnails? I can't even imagine why you started collecting those things, but they would go in and release one at a time, and you can kind of collect them and add them to your collection. And I was fascinated by these things. I actually was a collector. I would collect comic books and baseball cards and everything. So that's probably why I started collecting them. But I started to think about these things and the process that Danbury Mint had in place. With your first thimble that you bought, your first thimble that you bought, they would give you a collector's case, right? So when you bought that very first thimble, they gave you this collector's case, and it was this huge collector's case, right? So your first thimble is going in there, and it was like kind of interesting because I'm like, I'm thinking like, why did I feel like I just had to complete that stupid thimble collection? Right? And when I was collecting these things, I just had to get all of them. And I was wondering, like, do all humans have this burning urge and need to complete things that are just part of a series? And I'm starting to think about that as me and my mom are driving, and she's talking about this thimble collection. I'm off somewhere else. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, what prompted me to go in and collect this stuff, right? A teenager at that time, I wasn't into sewing, right? Just wanted to collect them. And when I had the first one, I had to get all of the others. And then I remembered hearing something that Tony Robbins said. And he says, the 6 human needs are certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection, contribution, and growth. These are the 6 basic human needs that every single one of us has that drive human behavior and influence our decisions. So these needs are universal and they apply to everyone, right? So here, I'll give you an example. So certainty is the need for security, comfort, and predictability. People seek to feel safe and to avoid pain or stress, right? So this need is related to control and stability in life. And trust me, stay with me, you'll see where I'm going with this and as how it relates to you being a better writer and being able to sell more of your books. And then you've got variety and significance and love and connection and growth and contribution, right? All of the different human needs. And because of these needs, we must collect every piece in the collection, as I did with the thumbnails, all right? And see every movie in the franchise, right? Or finish the puzzle or game, right? Or watch our favorite TV series. These needs push us to do these things, right? Like soap operas or Game of Thrones, right? Who here is a Game of Thrones fan? Put GOT in the chat box or the comments, right? Or check off our to-do list. It feels good to be able to do that, right? Or to buy and maybe read. Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Every book in a series. So our basic human needs kind of drive us to do some of these things. And sometimes we don't even realize what's driving us. So here's where this makes it easier for us as digital publishers, right? The drive or just that drive to buy or finish a book series are most connected to these 4 basic human needs. Number 1, certainty. The need to feel safe and know what's going to happen, right? And the reason why is because people like knowing how things end. This is why finishing a book series helps your reader to feel complete and not left wondering what will happen next. Another example is like fiction, right? So if you start reading like Harry Potter, you'll want to finish all of the books to know how the story ends. You want the full picture, not just part of a story. Here's a nonfiction example, right? If you're reading a series of books about history like the American Revolution, you might want to finish them all so that you better understand the event. Has anyone ever been there, right? You start one book and then you've got to finish it. Or you go watch one series and you've got to finish it, right? Sometimes you're binge watching this stuff. Or you're collecting baseball cards or coins or comic books or like me, thimbles, right? Here's another one of our basic needs, right? Variety, number 2, the need for excitement and new things. And the reason why this works is because each new book in the series brings something different and exciting like new characters or new facts, right? So here's an example. So if you're a fiction publisher or a writer in a mystery series like Nancy Drew, every new book has a different mystery to solve. And your reader gets a chance to explore new adventures that keeps it fun. For nonfiction, right, if your reader is reading a series about different science topics like the Magic School Bus, books, or, each one teaches him or her something new about the world around them, right? The third one is significance. They need to feel important or proud. Some people feel proud when they finish a book series. Do you ever feel like that? I know I feel like that, right? I know I feel like that when I simply finish a book. Because I know we're all pressed for time, right? So it could be kind of hard. But imagine finishing a book series, or when they collect all the books in a series. It makes them feel accomplished and special. Is anyone else like that? Say I, all right? Or put I in the chat box or the comments box, all right? Now, here's a fiction example. If you own all of the books in the Chronicles of Narnia series, it can make you feel proud that you completed the whole set and you know all of the stories. So now you're around your other friends, you're around other people. Maybe you're in a Facebook group, right? You can go in, you can feel, you can intelligently talk about the Chronicles of Narnia series, right? If you read a series on learning how to be successful in business, like the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, who with Robert Kiyosaki, by the way, I've had the chance to work with many times, you might feel smart and accomplished for finishing all of the books, right? So that's an example of how it works in nonfiction. The fourth one is, and these are all of the basic human needs that are most connected to individuals that causes us or helps us to complete a series, right? Love and connection. The need to feel close to others or part of something. Sometimes finishing a book series helps the reader to feel connected to the characters or to other people who also love the series. So here's a fiction example, right? So after reading a series like Percy Jackson, the reader might feel attached to the characters and their adventures, or, right, they might talk to friends who also read the stories, which makes them feel like they're part of a group. So we all like to be part of something, right? So for nonfiction, if you read a series on healthy living and discuss it with others, like a group of friends or family, you connect with them by sharing what you've learned, right? So humans can't help but to act in humanly ways. So once you start to understand this and realize that you've been taking a wrong approach when it comes to just writing one book or just thinking about one book, everything gets easier. So you start to think differently about everything, right? You start to think differently about your ideas, about the genres that you're going into, about your outline, about the message, about the characters, about the structure, about who you're serving. And then marketing becomes easier. You wouldn't believe how many authors and writers and content creators, digital publishers I speak to that have a hard time with marketing. And the reason why is because they're not thinking about it from a humanly standpoint. They're thinking about it from a traditional standpoint of being a creator, a publisher, a writer. They're thinking about it using the same 100-plus-year-old, 200-plus-year-old approach that has been around forever, all right? I'm asking you to think about things differently. It becomes easier to beat other authors and readers in sales and just cranking out books when you're looking at it from this standpoint. Because most are still playing the single book lottery, hoping and praying that their book will do well. So as I'm there at the bookstore, right, the light bulb goes off, all right? And I realize that although I had written, had ghostwriters, and had published many books and did really well with them, I forgot that my readers all have the same basic human needs. So regardless of if I'm publishing fiction or nonfiction, it just dawned on me that I had been wrong, right? So in order to be successful, you model success. I remember something that Tony Robbins says. He says, if you want to be successful, you find someone who has achieved the results you want, and you copy what they do, and you'll achieve the same results, all right? So he talks about modeling. So if you want to be successful at something, model the most successful people out there. And at this point, I jump up from the table. We're there at Barnes & Noble's, and we're having our tea and our crumpets or whatever we were having. And I just get this epiphany, and I jump up, and I just go around the bookstore, and I'm just looking at all of the different genres and all of the different books that I could find that had a series component. So I'm looking at romance, I'm looking at crime, thriller, fantasy, young adult, science fiction. I'm looking at biographies, autobiographies, memoirs, religious books, and everything in between. Fiction and nonfiction, as long as it was a series. And I start to just fill up like this. I'm just buying just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of books, right? Because I realized that if someone else has been successful, as Tony Robbins says, all I need to do is model their success. And if I model their success, there's a greater chance that I can be successful as well. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. All right? Just put success in the chat box or the comments box if that makes sense. So I go in and I take all of these books back to where my mom was at in the cafe area, and she's looking at me like I'm crazy, right? It's got just incredible amounts of books, lots of romance books and everything, and I'm just smiling because I know that I'm onto something. So I go back, and we're about to leave out, and I'm going up to the register, and the cashier's looking at me like I'm nuts, right? I got all of these books. I guess she thought I was reselling them or something. But I finally check out, and it had been, I forget how much, but it had to be like $1,000 worth of books or so, maybe more than that, like $1,500 or so. And we take these things back, and my mom had a Volkswagen Beetle at that time, and we barely could fit all of these books in, and it was just a nightmare trying to get these things in. And I'm holding them in my lap, and I've got them in between my legs. We got the back seat filled with them. We've got the little frunk, because the Volkswagen Beetle, the engine was in the back, so I had books bursting out the seams in the front. I'm holding them, and finally get back home, and I'm going through these things, and I'm looking at, like, what are the common denominators between these successful books that are published in a series format? And I did this over and over and over and over again for years, and I ended up spending thousands and thousands of dollars studying, and years and years and years, right, just trying to figure this thing out. And like I said, I really invested in this thing. I spent thousands of dollars over time, and I put years and years into studying what makes the most successful fiction and nonfiction book series, right? And the elements that they all had in common, and how I could go in and model them. Because I know that Kindle publishing worked. I know that book publishing worked, right, in the traditional sense, because I'd been doing it for Amazon Advantage with the physical books, and doing it very well successfully with digital books. So I know that the process works. I just needed to take it to the next level and figure out what I was doing wrong that caused my sales to go flat. My discovery was, I discovered that there are 10 easy to implement elements that all super successful fiction books have in common. So 10 of these things. And they're not hard to put in place. You just have to be aware as to what they are. And then I discovered that there are 11 easy to implement elements that all super successful nonfiction books have in common. Right? So there were 10 when it came to fiction, and 11, and these are all different when it came to nonfiction. All right? So, for example, with fiction, I discovered that, do you guys want to hear what one of these are? Let me know if you want to hear what some of these things are. Just give me a yes. All right. So for fiction, for example, I discovered that one of the main elements that every single fiction series that sold between 50 million and 1 billion copies all had in common was something super simple that every person, writer or non-writer, could put in place. Can you guess what it is? What do you think it is? Put your best guess. Don't cheat, right? Put your best guess in the comments box or in the chat box if you guys are watching it somewhere else. But if you're watching it like on YouTube or Instagram or somewhere, put your best guess in the chat box. What do you think it is that the best-selling fiction series that sold between 50 million and 1 billion all had in common? Which one of these things, right? And remember, this is just one of the elements out of a different 10 or 11. All right, so here. It's a series structure, right? So it's a series structure. Now, you're thinking, hey, Ty, well, that's pretty common. No, it's not. They all have the element of being part of a bigger story. So readers keep coming back for more because they want to see how the story continues and what actually happens there, right? Like what happens next to their favorite characters? What happens to the world that these characters are in, right? And again, this is for fiction. And there's similar elements. I'll talk about those for nonfiction, right? But it's often overlooked. Like this is often overlooked, but it's super easy to put in place. I'm going to show you as a matter of fact. So what makes a series that has the potential to sell millions of copies? When best-selling series authors plan a series, they don't just think about what happens in one book, right? As most people do. They think about how all of the books fit together, and they keep the reader hooked. So here's what I've done is, now I used to do this manually, right? So when I'm publishing a series, I'm going through this entire process, and it's an entire, trust me, it's a lot of work, and doing it manually, which is probably why a lot of authors don't do this. But I've created, with the advent of AI, it's become a lot easier, and I've created what I like to call my magic AI prompt that kind of helps you to do the same thing, but in a much shorter period of time. So we're compressing time, right? So I would love to share this prompt with you. Let me know if you guys put prompt into the chat box or into the comments if you're watching this, all right? All I ask is that you do not share this prompt because I am considering selling it in the future, probably somewhere between $500 to $1,000. So that's probably what I'm going to do in the future, all right? So I see prompt. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is, all right, I'm going to go out here and let me go grab my prompt. And this is the prompt, all right? So what you need for this thing to work is you're going to need ChatGPT, and it doesn't matter if you have the free or the paid version. I do prefer the paid version because it's just so cool, the things that you can do with the paid version, and the most up-to-date version, all right? So you take this prompt, and this prompt will help you to go in and create your series structure, regardless of if you already have a book that's written that you want to turn into a series, or if you don't, right? You're starting out from scratch. You'll copy it from the top to the bottom, and then we're going to put it over into ChatGPT, right? Top to the bottom. Don't change it. Doesn't matter, you know, and this is for fiction. I've got other prompts for nonfiction, but this one is for fiction. So nonfiction, folks, just stick with me. All right, so you put it in, top to bottom, and now what's going to happen is it's going to prompt you. It's going to prompt ChatGPT to ask you some questions. So it's going to say, let's get started on creating a book series. We'll go step by step, starting with picking the genre. So what kind of story do you want to write? Is there a genre that excites you, like fantasy, mystery, romance, sci-fi, or adventure? And you could put anything. It doesn't matter if you see your genre here. It could be any subgenre. So I could say, you know, it could be whatever. All right. So just don't think that you're confined to what you see here. All right. Just for lack of, I'm going to put teen. Oh, you know what? I'm going to put young adult. So YA, young adult, right? Mystery. Just to prove to you guys that it doesn't just have to be the genres here. You could also put, I'm not sure, right? So I just don't know, all right? And it'll help you. But we're going to play along here. Now, this prompt right here, this thing is so badass that it will help you. Like before, as I said, I would spend literally up to, 6 or 7 weeks doing this before on my own. But now you could do it in just minutes. So great choice. A young adult mystery series will be full of suspense, secrets, and twists that keep readers hooked. Now let's move to the next step. So you're going to answer each question, right? So do you already have an idea for your story, or would you like brainstorming one? All right. I don't have an idea. So we're going to put that in there. All right. And it's going to ask you a couple of questions to help develop it. All right. So no problem. Let's brainstorm your story together. I'll ask a few questions to help create the foundation. So create a story idea. So this is where we're going. So again, whether you are someone who already has a book, you can use this, or if you don't have a book, or if you have no idea what you want your book to be about, right? Your series, I should say. Because in this case, we're building out an entire series. So who's your main character? Is your main character a brave teenager, a curious detective? So I'm going to put a brave teenager. And again, you're not limited to what you see bolded. You can go and you could say anything, right? So it could be, I could put the town sheriff, right? If I could spell sheriff, right? And you see that that's not an option there. Hold on. The town. I'm gonna put deputy, only because I can't spell sheriff. So look, if I can't spell, you guys can do this. A curious, right? Or maybe someone who stumbles into a mystery by accident. Describe what kind of person they are. For example, very outgoing. But town deputy, who is very talkative, right? So I'll put that. What big problem does your character have to solve? What's the central mystery? A problem, for example, do they need to solve a crime, uncover a secret? And again, you don't have to stick to what's bold, right? Make sure that you just answer everything within the same box. So I just hit shift and enter so that I can add, I can go down to the next line, right? So I'm going to put solving a crime. So in this case, I am going to use one that they have here, but again, you don't have to. It could be anything. Where does the story happen? It could be a small town with dark secrets. And I'm going to put my hometown, Bridgeport, Connecticut. All right. What makes your world or character special? Is there maybe your character has an unusual skill? Yes, he can read minds. Can read minds. All right, so now I've got everything. You don't have to put a 1, 2, 3, 4, and none of that other stuff. You could if you wanted to. Like if I wanted to, I could put 1, right? I could put 2 because I'm answering these questions. Like you could. That actually might be better for you. You can actually do that if you want. All right, so that you're telling ChatGPT which question you're answering. And then, boom, I'm going to put that in there. And now it's thinking. It's doing its thing. All right? Awesome. Your mind-reading, talkative deputy in Bridgeport, Connecticut sounds like a fantastic character for a mystery series. Now let's move forward with the next step. Big problem for the whole series. Now, this is what I was talking about, right? Having a huge overarching problem for the entire series. Is there a larger overarching problem or mystery that won't be solved until the very end of a series? For example, maybe the crime your deputy is solving is part of a bigger conspiracy, or there's a hidden villain. I don't have anything, so I'm going to put let's brainstorm. Now, I could have come up with something. I could have said, like, he's found out that the entire police department is corrupt, right? But I put let's brainstorm, and let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. So this is why you want to use this, because it's going to help you to come up with ideas as well. If you've got, like, writer's block, you're just stuck. So here's some possible overarching problems. A secret society in town, right? The deputy's mysterious past. A string of disappearances. Over the past few years, people have gone missing in Bridgeport under mysterious circumstances. As the deputies solve smaller cases, they realize that each one connects to the disappearances. The final book could reveal who or what is responsible. So there's a lot of options, right? I'm going to go with number 5, right? So I'll put 5. I'll put I like number 5, all right? And then just be courteous to ChatGPT, right? I like number 5, thanks. Right, hidden villain. So now it's going to go in. Now look, you want to make sure that you're staying in the same window when you're doing this. Don't go out. Don't hit the stop button or anything like that. All right. Great choice. The hidden villain concept will help keep readers intrigued and guessing throughout the series. Now let's move to the next step. Step 5. How many books? Do you have a sense of how many books you want in your series? If you're unsure, a 5-book series is a popular choice because it gives enough room for character development and plot twists. Does that sound good to you, or do you have a different number in mind? So 5 is good. Now it's going to help us to start building these things out. So continuing to move forward. All right. All right. So what happens in each book? Do you already have an idea for what happens in each book? Would you like help brainstorming how the plot could unfold over 5 books? All right. I have no idea. All right, so now it's brainstorm. Book number 1, the first crime, plot. The deputy solves a seemingly straightforward crime, maybe a burglary, disappearance, or vandalism. Twist. By the end of a book, they'll discover a clue that hints at something bigger going on, possibly tied to a hidden villain. It could be a name, a symbol, or a strange coincidence that doesn't sit right. Character development. The deputy starts to realize their mind-reading ability is more powerful than they thought. Book 2, a pattern emerges. Another crime occurs. This time it's more serious, like a murder or major theft. As the deputy investigates, they notice similarities between this crime and one from book 1, and one from book 1. Twist. By the end of this book, they start connecting the dots between the crimes and realize there's a pattern. Someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes, but they don't know who yet. Character development. The deputy becomes more confident in their abilities, but also starts questioning the trustworthiness of people around them. All right? So now I've got all 5 of my books, right? They're not totally fleshed out, but you see where we've got these rough outlines, right? So now most people don't even have the outline for 1 book, a rough outline for 1 book, let alone 5, right? So how does that outline feel to you? We can adjust anything as you fit. So you can easily go in and you could say, hey, look, for this book, I'd like to do this, and right? So, but I'm going to say this is great for sake of time. I'm going to go in and I'll say this is great because I got a lot more of it I want to share with you guys. So now it's going through and it's doing its thing, right? It is doing its thing. All right, I'm glad you like it. Now that we have a strong foundation for your series, let's move on to character development. How will your characters change? All right, have you thought about how your main character, the deputy, will change over the course of the series? Where does the deputy start in the beginning? How do they grow by the end? For example, at the start, the deputy might be overconfident and talkative, but not taking their mind-reading ability too serious. By the end, after facing betrayal, self-doubt, and personal challenges, they could become more serious, cautious, and better at using their abilities to help others. Right? So do you have any ideas for your character's growth, or would you like to brainstorm? Right? So I'm going to put, on this one, I'm not going to brainstorm. I'll say, yes, he becomes more confident in his abilities and starts to distance himself from the police department. All right, so now, thank God for spell check. So now let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. So you can use your own creativity if you're someone that's a writer, an author, you should be putting as much input as you can in this. But the beautiful thing about it is when you get stuck, then you can go and you can say, hey, ChatGPT, help me out here. Now, what happens is this is a unique piece here that's being created. No one else on earth will have this. It's 100% unique to you because we're using ChatGPT's input as well as our own personal input. So it's very important that you go in and you add as much as your own human input as possible, as many times as possible, as much as possible, right? So that's a great direction. The deputies grow in confidence and distancing from the police department, adds depth to their character arc, showing how their investigation impacts their personal life and relationships. So step 8, themes and ideas, right? So now here, is there a big theme or message you'd like to explore in your series, right? So here we're going to say, for example, trust and betrayal. The deputy learns who they can trust and who they can't, especially as they uncover the conspiracy. All right, so I'm going to use this one. And again, remember I said you want to go in and write as many of these out as you can, but for sake of time, I'm going to use the assistance of ChatGPT, all right? So now it's going in, and look, copyright, right? Because this is a unique piece, you will own, according to OpenAI's terms of service, you will own the copyright to this thing. So you can go in, you can list it, you can publish it if you want, all right? So ownership is all yours. So the theme of trust and betrayal will add layers of emotional tensions to the story, making it even more engaging for readers. Now let's move on to the next step. So 9, exciting endings. Do you have ideas for how each book should end? A great ending often leaves readers eager for the next book with a twist, right? Or unresolved question, right? So this is the other part here. So for example, book 1 could end with the deputy finding a clue that hints at the hidden villain's involvement, all right? And now I'm going to go in, I'll use this one, right? And again, you can write in, all right? So you know what, I could say book 1. Actually, I'm going to say let's, I need help. All right? So let's see what it comes up with here. So let's brainstorm some exciting and suspenseful endings for each book in your series. We'll aim to keep readers on the edge of their seats, eager to find out what happens next. So book 1, the first crime, right? This is the ending idea. The deputy solves the initial crime and thinks the case is closed, but they find a strange clue, a symbol, an encrypted message, or a piece of evidence that doesn't fit. It hints at something bigger, but the deputy doesn't realize its importance yet. So here's the cliffhanger. The last line could be the deputy overhearing a conversation that they shouldn't, or suddenly receiving a cryptic mind-reading flash from someone nearby, leaving them confused but intrigued, right? So then you've got the same for book 2 and 3, and it just goes on, and 4 and 5, right? And I could say these are great. All right, and again, you can go in and you can edit, you can revise, you can ask it to do something different if you want it to. But I'm going to say, again, for sake of time, that these are great, right? So now, the other question that you might be wondering is, hey, does ChatGPT, is it plagiarizing? Is it pulling out content from other sources? No. That was a rumor when ChatGPT first got started. But look, this stuff is unique. It's unique to you. It's not plagiarized. You won't find it anywhere else. You have the ownership. You own the copyright, right? So there's a lot that you can do with this. But again, I do suggest that you put as much of a human element so that you're creating high quality content as much as possible. So I'm glad you liked the ideas. We've created some thrilling endings to keep readers hooked. throughout the series, right? Now, it goes on and it says, step 10, building our world. Now, this is another very important element that I found in series that do extremely well, right? They've got these worlds that are just immersive and they're just huge, right? And I'm going to talk about this later on. We just don't have time right now, but this is a very important part, right? So now let's think about the setting of your story. You've already mentioned that it takes place in Bridgeport, Connecticut. To make the world feel richer and more immersive, we can brainstorm a few key details. All right, what makes Bridgeport so special? Does the town have a hidden history, dark secrets, or let's see. It has a hidden history. Please help me brainstorm. My spelling is terrible. All right. So now we're almost at the home stretch here. All right, let's brainstorm a hidden history for Bridgeport, Connecticut. A forgotten crime or cover-up. Decades ago, Bridgeport was the site of a major crime, perhaps a mysterious disappearance, unsolved murder, or scandal involving influential families, right? So yes, I like this idea. So I like this idea. Right? So a mysterious murder. Now, you don't have to, again, you don't have to go with what's in bold. You can put whatever you want in there, as I did just now. All right? So now, it's thinking again. And sometimes ChatGPT could be a little bit slow, and if you ever have an issue, you could just go in, you can kind of refresh, but wait until it stops. Don't refresh when it's square here, all right? So just wait. So planning the big finish. Do you have an idea for how the last book will end since your series builds towards a confrontation with the hidden villain? It's important to plan a satisfying conclusion. For example, the final showdown, right? And I could say, again, you can put in your touch, but I'm going to use that. All right, and now, again, that's a fantastic choice for the big finale. All right, step 12, surprises for loyal readers. Would you like to include any hidden clues or special surprises? This right here is a reward. This is a treasure chest. This is like that Easter egg, the golden Easter egg that someone finds, right? They didn't know it was going to be out there, but they come across it. All right, so let's add. All right, so let's add some subtle hints. And again, you can go in and add your own input, and I suggest that you do. All right, so we're going to add in some subtle hints, right? These are going to be small clues in the first few books that only make sense once the big reveal happens in the final book. So do you see how that happens? So here's a summary. Now it's going to give you a summary. And it may look different for what you're doing, right? Based on the genre, based on how you answered, based on your inputs, based on ChatGPT's inputs. So don't, get worried if it's not laid out exactly in this way, if the wording is not exactly this way. Remember what I said earlier. Every single individual's output is going to be totally different. A million of us, a million different individuals could do this, and you'll have a million different outputs, all right? So the main story of a talkative town deputy with mind-reading abilities solves crime in Bridgeport, Connecticut while uncovering a conspiracy tied to a decades-old murder cover-up. Books. The series will consist of 5 books, each escalating the stakes as the deputy gets closer to uncovering the hidden villain. Character growth. The deputy will grow more confident in their abilities but distance themselves from the police department as they discover the corruption within. Theme. Trust and betrayal will be central, with the deputy learning who they can and can't trust as they unravel the conspiracy. World building. Bridgeport has a hidden history involving a mysterious murder that was covered up by the town's leaders. Exciting endings. Each book will end with twists that keep readers wanting more, with the final showdown revealing the hidden villain as a key town leader involved in the original cover-up. Subtle hints. Throughout the series, small clues will point to the hidden villain's identity, rewarding sharp-eyed readers when the big reveal happens. Now, is this starting to, can you feel that this thing is starting to come together? Right? Now, if there's anything else that you would add, this is your chance to do so. All right? If not, we're just going to go in. Let's move forward. all right? And even the responses where it says, let's move forward, right? You may not see that because, again, every single person's output is going to be different. This is why you don't have to worry about it being the same content or plagiarized or taken from somewhere else, right? It may say, do you want to push forward, right? Are you ready to continue? It just so happens to say, do you feel ready to move forward? All right, so I'm going to put, let's move forward. And you'll just respond similarly, right? Awesome, you're all set with a strong foundation for your young adult mystery series. As you continue developing it, feel free to reach out if you want to brainstorm more ideas or dive into specific details. Good luck with your writing journey, this series. And now we come back and we take the other elements that I found and we incorporate this thing, and then we start to build out our series even more and more and more so. But now we've got an entire framework that we can use, right? So now getting back to this, now what questions do you guys have about this? Let me know in the chat box, right? So that one prompt right there has saved me years of wasted time, and I just gave it to you guys for free, all right? Just gave it to you for free. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you how you can go in and access it if you want to go in and kind of copy and paste it. So I'll show you how you can get it, and you will enjoy that bad boy. All right, so now my discovery. I discovered things. As a matter of fact, when you stay to the end, I'm going to give you that prompt. I'll give you a link where you can go and you can grab it. All right, so I discovered that things that give you the potential to attract more readers and sell way more books than you could ever hope to by publishing just a single book. All right. Now, have you ever wondered, like, how do some authors create so much content so quickly? Oftentimes, it's as simple as having the right framework, right? And once you have the right framework, you have the potential to create books in a much more shorter period of time. With the right framework, I can go from taking like a year to being able to create an entire long-form book in just weeks. I can create a series in just a few days, right? So who else would like that ability? And if you have ghostwriters, you can even share it with them, or you could just keep this to yourself. But think about this, right? It shortens the time frame. So here's an example of some of these authors, right, that are able to just crank out books, like J.R.R. Tolkien, right, the author of The Lord of the Rings. He published The Fellowship of the Ring in July, and then The Two Towers in November of the same year, right? George R.R. Martin, a Song of Ice and Fire author, published A Clash of the Kings in February, and then that same year in August, published A Storm of Swords. Right? L.J. Smith, author of The Vampire Diaries, published The Fury in January, and then that same year published Dark Reunion in October. Bill O'Reilly, right? You guys remember Bill O'Reilly. The Killing series, right? He published Killing Jesus in September, and then that same year in May, Killing Kennedy, or earlier, I should say. I got those reversed a little bit. So he published in May, Killing Kennedy, and then in September, Killing Jesus. So what I also discovered is that once you have the correct framework to work with, it can potentially be even easier and faster to publish multiple books in a series than it is to create and publish a single book, right? Because you're not taking decades, you're not taking years, you're not taking months to create and publish a single book, as many people do. Now, let me repeat that in case you missed it. Once you have the correct framework, it can potentially be easier and faster to publish multiple books in a series than it is to create and publish a single book. All right? If finances are an issue, once released, and if you start generating sales, each book sales can fuel the creation of the next, because when you have a series, you can do things that help to generate additional sales that you can't do with a single book. All right? There's a lot there. Now, what I discovered will shock you. It's actually, especially when you see how simple like these things are to put in place, most of us miss them because we're thinking and acting as one-off writers, creators, and publishers. And as I started to create my own personal frameworks, test and put the elements into place with both my fiction and nonfiction books, right, I started to see different things. And as I started to create my own personal frameworks, test and put the elements into place, right, I started to see different things. My sales kicked back up, and then it took off even better than ever once I started to go in this route and using what I'm sharing with you here, right? I'm selling fiction. I'm doing this stuff for nonfiction. I'm just all over the place with it, and I'm seeing where it's taken off and it's doing better than ever, right? Not only did my book sales take off, but they took off even better than ever before, and much better than when I was publishing a single book around a single topic, one at a time. Does that make sense? All right? Now, remember, I put thousands of dollars in like 2 years of studying into not only what makes the best fiction and nonfiction series, but also what makes the best-selling books overall. Because remember, my journey started at that library when I'm just grabbing all of these books. I just took them home and I'm just figuring out what is it about a series that does really well. I totally submerged myself into not only reading the books, but studying everything about the process. So the inners, the outers of the books, the storylines, the plots, the layouts, the authors, the publishing houses behind them, sales and marketing methods, the direct response approaches that they use to build large, extremely loyal readerships. Speaking of which, don't forget, at the very end, I'm going to give you a link to get this bonus, the direct response marketing for fiction and nonfiction authors, right? Because this thing has helped me to build a very large audience, right? Just using direct response. I'm also going to give you the other bonuses that I mentioned as well. So I'm going to give you a link at the very end so that you guys can go in and grab those, all right? Now, never just publish and upload to Amazon. That's the wrong approach. And I see so many people making that approach where they're like, hey, I got this idea for a book. I'm going to go in, I'll write it. It's going to take me whatever time it's going to take me, a couple of weeks, a couple of years, a couple of months, right? And then I'm going to upload it. And nothing happens. That's the wrong approach. Matter of fact, let me prove it to you. Have you or someone you know taken this approach and not saw the sales that you expected? Be honest, right? Just be honest. Just give me a yes in the chat box or the comments box, right? And it's because you're taking the wrong approach. Remember I talked about this approach that many authors and writers and creative people have been following for the last 100 years or 200 years, right? And nothing's changed. The other thing that I discovered is, unlike what many believe, it's not just the act of creating a series and putting it up on Amazon. There's specific actions that must be taken, and when you do, you increase your potential of doing much better, all right? And this is the mistake that I see like so many people making. Like they'll go publish 1, 2, 10 books, and they're like, I'm not getting any sales. And I can almost immediately look at their books, right, and tell why they're not getting any sales. And it's often because they have followed maybe 1 or 2 parts of what I'm now calling my book series secrets process, but they don't have everything in place. Just like trying to bake a cake that requires 6 ingredients, but you're just including 2, right? It won't come out the same. So think about that. So with what I now know and being an expert at this and someone who has studied, read, modeled, put in years of hard work and thousands of dollars into it, I feel like I'm now able to beat well-known writers, all because I put in the very, very long late nights, the early mornings, and invested lots of my own hard-earned cash studying what makes a great series, all right? So through it all, I now realize that even for someone like me who's not technical and traditionally a very slow learner, once you see it, it's really not that hard. Especially if you know what to do and in what order. It's a piece of cake, right? So just like baking a cake, if you know what to do, what ingredients, in what order, the cake can come out, right? And we can all have a cake that comes out very similar, right? So especially since I've now simplified the process for both myself, my team, my children, I feel like someone can follow my framework and successfully put together a fiction or nonfiction book series, and can even take certain parts of my framework and apply it to their single or standalone fiction and nonfiction books. And now I want to share it with you, all right? I want to give a small group of people the entire framework process, like all of the steps, the map, the formulas, everything, all right? Is that okay? Like, let me know. Do you guys mind if I share this series secrets framework with you all? Let me know if you mind. Give me a yes in the chat box if you, all right? Okay, awesome. Put it in the comment. Okay, so type frameworks in the chat box or the comments if you'd like me to share this with you. Just type frameworks in there, all right? All right, so as I mentioned, I spent 2 years and thousands of dollars studying what makes a great series, right? And best-selling books in general. And now instead of you taking years to figure this all out, I want to help you compress time by giving you the things that I've learned that helped me to be successful with my series and books. And I want to do so over just 5 days, 1 hour a day, right? So about an hour and 90 minutes a day, so that each day we can go into the most important elements of your book story series. And when you see how simple it is, you'll realize that the major publishing houses and well-known authors have known, you'll see what these guys have known and have been keeping from you all this time. So let's just keep it to this group, all right? So I'm going to share this stuff, but I want to keep it to this group. So here's your special offer. There was no way that I could include everything that you need to know into a short presentation like this. Like I literally just scratched the surface on just one of the elements in the entire framework. That's why I wanted to do something extra special for everyone in attendance here today. So what I decided to do is 3 things for you. First, for everyone that takes action on what I'm about to share with you, you'll also get access to the slides and a replay of this particular training. You'll be able to download them totally free with a special link that will be added to your private Platinum members area. Secondly, because this step is so powerful, I'm also going to give you the book series success structure prompt that I used as a thank you bonus, all right? And third, I really wanted to go above and beyond for you today. So I've decided to turn this entire training and the full framework into an actual live Zoom event. So this is going to be a full 5-day step-by-step challenge so that you can get your own fiction and nonfiction book series up and running as soon as possible. So what I'm going to share during this event are the secrets that I've personally spent thousands of dollars on to acquire and that have helped me to be super successful with digital publishing. During this event training, I'll hold your hand and walk you through each of the elements step by step. You'll also get recordings of each day of a challenge as well as links to access any tools and or resources that I may share during the event. And by the end of a challenge, you'll know 100% without a doubt, all right, how to build out a fiction or nonfiction book series of any genre the right way. No more guessing, no more getting stuck and taking years to finish. But even with all of this, I still wanted to take things one step further. So this type of education is easily worth thousands and thousands of dollars, especially if you actually do something with it, right? I know this without a doubt because it personally cost me thousands of years of hard work, research, reading, studying, and trial and error just to learn it. But you're not going to pay thousands like I did, and you're not going to have to spend years getting it right. I've already done both for you, right? So you probably see it all the time where advanced challenges and workshops may typically charge upwards of $497 to $997, right? But you're not going to pay that either, even though, in my opinion, it's more than worth it. What I wanted to do as a favor to you and the entire community is make the challenge training accessible to every single person who wants the information. And so I wanted to make this a complete no-brainer for everyone that sees it, all right? That's why I decided to give you a platinum ticket to all 5 days of the entire event, including the recordings, in case you can't make it live for any or all of the days, and all of the resources at an incredibly steep discount. In fact, I decided to do something so big that I don't normally do. That's why when you take me up on what I'm about to give you, in exchange, I'm going to give you something extremely special. This one is for all the action takers, so this is your reward here. That's why when you take advantage of this special offer right now, you'll get access to everything, including like a platinum level ticket to the challenge for just $97, plus an additional 25% off when you use coupon code SERIES. Plus, during the challenge, I'll be sharing additional AI prompts that make creating and publishing your fiction or nonfiction series much easier than doing it manually. So go ahead and type the website address that you see on your screen below into your browser, or click on the link in the chat box right now to get everything for a one-time payment of just $97 plus an additional 25% off with coupon code SERIES. All right, you can visit www.kindlecashflow.com/series. Use discount code SERIES, right? Please note, I reserve the right to take down this discount code at any time so that once I do take it down, you will not have that 25% off discount. If you come back later or you watch this on a replay, the coupon code may not work, but $97 for a platinum ticket to this thing is still an amazing value. All right, we're going to be together 5 days. So go ahead and type the website address that you see on your screen below into your browser, or click on the link in the chat box right now to get everything for a one-time payment of just $97 plus an additional 25% off with coupon code SERIES. All right, so visit www.kindlecashflow.com/KSS. All right, that'll give you your 25% off. Make sure that you do not forget to enter your coupon code SERIES. All right, and this is what it's going to look like. So once you go over to kindlecashflow.com/KSS, you're going to see the order page. right? You'll see the sales letter. Then from there, you click on the order page, right? And then once you get to the order page, you'll see where it looks like this. You just go and you apply your discount code there and that coupon code. Make sure that it's still working. You didn't lose out on it or miss out, right? You'll apply the discount, and it comes out to like $72, $75 or something like that with the 25% off, all right? All right, so now that's it. This is how you go in, take advantage of this. I can't wait to see you on for 5-day challenge, and we're going to take your series, your fiction or your nonfiction series, to the next level, right? Look, one of the books that I'm reading right now is this book, The Art of War by Steven Pressfield. If you guys have not read this, this is a fantastic book to go in and pick up. In it, he talks about how, especially creative people, we have this thing that we want to do that is our calling, and we have, like, we kind of procrastinate. We don't do it. We don't move when we should. We don't act on it when we should. He says the hardest thing about writing is not the act of writing. It's actually sitting down at your desk and beginning to write. And he says the reason why that happens is because we have what's known as resistance, and all of us have resistance in us. It doesn't matter who we are, right? And one of my favorite quotes by Steven Pressfield is, "Don't prepare, begin. Our enemy is not lack of preparation, the enemy is resistance. Our chattering brain producing excuses. Start before you are ready." And right now, your chattering brain is probably producing excuses. He says the thing that we are most resistant to doing is the thing that we absolutely must do, because that's where our calling is. That's where our true North Star is at. He says, like, this thing where we have this resistance at is like our North Star. That's the direction that we ultimately must go in. But we have to get past the procrastination, the resistance, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome. And I'm asking you right now, you know that this challenge is for you. Get past those things, get past resistance, and join us. All right, so now I promise you guys a couple of bonuses. I'm going to give you the links to grab those bonuses, all right? Thank you for staying until the end. This is your first bonus for Kindle's the Series Success Framework. And you can go over and grab that by going to kindlecashflow.com/KSSB. Doesn't matter if it's all lowercase. As a matter of fact, lowercase might be best, and this works for both fiction and nonfiction. The other bonus that you're going to get is to kindlecashflow.com, or not Kindle. You can visit kindlecashflow.com/KSSB and get the Bestseller Series Launchpad. All right, so when you stay to the very, very end, right, you get this link here, and you can go and you can grab that because you have stayed until the very, very end. All right, so you'll see that. And then last but not least, I'm going to give you a copy of my personal resource, the Direct Response Marketing book for fiction and nonfiction authors, a complete step-by-step guide to getting more readers, sell more books, and build a loyal audience. All right, and you can go to kindlecashflow.com/KSSB to grab that. All right. And then last but not least, I want you to join our community for creators while you still can. Go over to publishlikeapro.com. It's a free community. You'll have to be approved before we let you in. But once you are approved, you come in and you say, hey, my name is Joe. I'm from Bridgeport. Or my name is Mike. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm a author, or I'm a nonfiction author, or I'm a digital publisher, or I'm a course creator, or I'm an influencer. Whatever it may be. Right, come in and introduce yourself. You'll find that we have an amazing audience of people of all walks of life, all ages, all nationalities. And with that said, I want to thank you. I hope that you got some useful knowledge from this presentation. And with that said, good luck. Make sure you go in, register for the challenge right now by visiting www.kindlecashflow.com/KSS and use coupon code SERIES.